Hello Internet, what's up my peeps? In this video I'll be making a simple and cheap floating shelf. I'll be using the leftover lumber I've been using for pretty much all of my woodworking videos to date, but there are other ways to do it. We'll be using this piece of C-frame or C-section, as well as this board. I need to cut this board in half and stack them together because the C-section is thicker than what a single piece of this board is. There is a better way to do it though, and that's to simply get a board that is equally thick or thicker than the C-section. Then you can skip a number of steps, but first I need to plane this and glue them together to get the width I require. So unfortunately I managed to get a gap. Not really sure how visible it is. It's a bit more visible on this side. Unfortunately, because this is the front facing side, due to this knot here, I'm going to use this towards the wall, which will be enclosed in the C-section. But it is what it is. I thought I had enough clamps clamping down on the outside, but So hitting record on my mic only. You can hear me playing this side, but you can't see me. But believe me when I say that I did. I'm playing this side down. So the depth, this here to here, this is roughly 28 mil. So we're gonna make a cut in the board. We're gonna make that 26 to give us a bit of leeway. We need to cut it from this side over here. This needs to be 26. But since this is the rough edge, I can't really trust it to be straight. So we need to measure from this edge because this one is planed, so this one should work. This is 116.66, 116.2, and over here 118. We have a winner. We need to subtract 26 from 119, the biggest measurement, because that will leave us with 23 down here on the opposite end, where you can't see me pointing, but it's that way. So this will always be 83, and we hide the difference within the C channel. sanding the board with the C-channel attached in order to match the width of the board with the width of the C-channel, but this was a huge mistake as the filings from the channel contaminated the surface of the board. So earlier when I used the C-channel as a sort of guide for how much I wanted to take off with the sander, don't do that. The iron filings from the C-channel permanently stained the lumber. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'm hoping that it shows up on camera. But that was not a good idea. Instead, simply measure. This is supposed to be 30 wide. Go with that. That's a better way to do it. Nonetheless, this is salvageable. I'll put this on top. I'll use this as the topmost shelf. That way this can hardly be seen. And even if you only do one and happen to do this, hopefully you'll place a lot of things on the shelf so that this is barely visible. You live and you learn. And I make mistakes, so you don't have to. Didn't really do all that much. As you can see, it's still a very visible gap, but we gave it a shot. So if you for any reason like me are using two different boards and gluing them together, be extra careful to make sure that one of the edges is, this is usable, hardly any gap here. I was a bit too careless or optimistic, call it what you want, and only clamped about in here. Next time I'll remember to clamp all the way around. I realized that the glue might not have set properly thanks to the huge amount of sawdust I had in it. It seemed a bit thick, but I was thinking that was because the glue had already started to set. So I'm just gonna take this really sharp edged piece of metal and improvise a scraper and see if I can't scrape this off, because it's gumming up when I'm using the orbital sander. Really? Oh, that's a lovely sound. After a while I switched to a much thicker plate to use as a scraper, and that worked a lot better. I also tried to sand the rest of the wood filler off, but in the end I had to resort to my jointer to get it off completely. there's a rough patch. This one isn't great. I misunderstood the arrow on this piece and ran it in the wrong direction in the planer. Or is that the jointer? I think that's the jointer. I always mix up those two. So it kind of ate up the wood. This is the biggest blemish. There you can see it. But I'm gonna leave this in. As I said, this will be the top shelf. What we need to do before we can finish this with lacquer, floor lacquer, is to figure out how deep we need to make this cut. So let's measure how deep the actual C profile is. 27.8. So let's say it's 28. And then we subtract a millimeter for the rounded inner corner, because we can't really get, otherwise we need to round this off, and it's easy to just subtract a mil. So let's say that we do this 27 then. So there's quite a bit we need to remove. When adjusting this, we need to include the entire saw blade, because we're going to cut all the way out to this edge. Yeah, let's start with this. Remember how I said we need to take into account the width of the saw blade? Yeah, I did not do that. I guess this shelf, this will be up, no matter if this is the good side or the bad side, because I just cut 30 instead of 27. Ugh. I gave this a thought and realized when I started building this, it's been a while, it's gone a couple of weeks in between the last shots and this shots, last shots and these shots. I shouldn't be measuring from this side, because this is uneven, and I don't have any reason to smooth this out, because it will be hidden inside the C-channel. So instead of measuring 27 from here, I figured out that I needed to go 90 in from this edge. This is square and straight and should be a much better reference point. That means I need to exclude the blade width, because the blade will be cutting on this side instead. So I almost screwed up and included the width of the blade, which would have given me 30 again. That final cut height was really good. I could have done all of this on the table saw, but it's pretty annoying having to do so many cuts. Dado stacks are illegal in Europe, or at least in Sweden. The widest cut I can get is 3 mil, so I need to do 10 passes, probably more, to get to 30 or 27 in this case. On this side, a bit more uneven, but again, it doesn't matter. All we want to be able to do is butt up against this edge with the C-channel. And I just realized that my table saw was extremely filthy. I have no idea where all of this came from. This looks like, I don't know, crayon? So I guess I'll have a stab at this with the sander again. Bit. Yeah, we can get it up there. This one I'm not too worried about, because that's where I made the mistake. Check on this side. Yeah, not so much on this side. Perfectly here. I guess it's wider in this end. Doing 90 here means that never mind, let's just cut this side. Sorry. Let's just cut a piece off here. Let's make it the same width here as here. Something I probably should have done before I used this as a reference edge, because I'm not placing anything over this. I would very much like for this to be 90, because that gives the shelf a uniform look. But if this one is, let's say, 27 and over here it's 32, then this won't fit. So back on the table saw and rip it to the same width here as here. $120. going to try and clean this one up. I'll start by using some spirits or paint thinner. There's a lot of metal dust in this C channel, so it's super important that it's properly cleaned. This is, yeah. This is up. With that in mind, you need to put it on like this, because this is always facing down. Because normally you would want this up, the visible part. Bring it up, and then now we're gonna mark where these holes are. The reason for this is because the screws I'm using to fasten the C-channel to the wall has a pretty hefty head on it, so we need to sort of indent the actual shelf to allow for those screw heads to fit in between the section and the shelf. We're actually going to pre-drill all of these. The reason for pre-drilling these is that I before managed to crack the wood at the outer edges of the shelf. In here, not a big problem, but here I've split it at least on one shelf. Dry fit. This side looks nice enough, which is a good thing, because this is the side that most probably might see, since this is the top shelf and this is the underside of the top shelf. This is what you would see normally, and yeah, the gap is, it's good here as well. The actual shelf is a bit thinner than the C section, or the C channel, sorry. That could be because I tried to sand this out. It could also be because the C channel differs in width. But here you have it. This is the completed shelf. Now I just need to mount it to the wall. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Confession time. I meant to just tweak the width of the shelf a tiny bit, and forgot to put in a backing or a sacrificial board. So I completely ripped this out. But again, I won't bother with it. It is what it is. And here they are, all 4 shelves mounted to the wall. Thank you very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, useful, entertaining, or perhaps all of the above, please give the video a thumbs up, share, like, subscribe, all of that good stuff. And if you really want to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description below. Stay safe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye bye!